Hello, and it is Orna Ross here from the Alliance of Independent Authors with another ALLi Insights Seminar. And this evening I'm going to be talking about something that every indie author needs to know about and every indie author needs to do better, including myself, and that is email marketing. And I am absolutely delighted to have with us this evening Nick Stephenson. Hi, Nick.
Hello, how you doing?
Nick, for those of you who don't know, has been running a really successful set of videos, educational videos about email marketing and marketing in various ways, and also, really about how to grow your connection with your readers, how to get them in close, and how to get your first 10,000 readers. After that, he tells us, it gets easy. So he has all the information for us this evening based on the course that he's been running and lots of feedback from, I'm sure at this stage must be thousands of indie authors. So if we could start, Nick, by just talking a little bit about this course and why you started it. Did you see a need for it? Was it your own experience? Where did it all begin?
So I think for me, the traditional approach to marketing for authors has always been write as many books as possible and get them in as many places as possible. And I think this kind of harks back to the kind of traditional model where when you're writing and you're submitting to agents and publishers, having as many kind of books out there to try and get attention works really well because you've got more irons in the fire and more people are more likely to see your work and you're more likely to get a publishing contract. I think with the indie approach, when you're kind of doing all of this yourself and you've got to take the marketing on as a sort of extra business activity, when you're just writing more books, if that's the only thing you're doing to get more visibility, you're leaving a lot of visibility on the table, really, because that's just having more products isn't really a strategy, isn't really a marketing strategy. You're kind of just hoping that one book will take off, and you don't know which book it's going to be, you don't know when it's going to be, and you don't really have control over that marketing process. You don't know who's seeing your books, you don't know who's buying your books, you don't know who's talking about you. You're relying on places like Amazon and the other ebook retailers and Facebook and Twitter. You're relying on these third parties to do all of this marketing for you. And for some people that does work, but it's very dangerous because you don't control that relationship. So when someone buys one of our books from Amazon or wherever, we have no idea who they are. We don't get to see who that customer is because Amazon owns that customer. So if we can take a slightly different mindset approach and think about how kind of online e-retail has been growing over the last few decades, how the successful people are building up a business online, and we apply that to books, that can work amazingly well. So in my head, I'm very focused on building up an audience and controlling those direct lines of communication between me and my readers, because if I control that relationship, I get to dictate how my career develops over time. And I don't have to rely on Amazon, don't have to rely on Facebook, I don't have to rely on anyone else to build my career in the long term. And that was always my goal starting off with this, because I think most authors can identify with this feeling of you've written your first book, or it could be your 10th book, it doesn't really matter. You've spent months, maybe even years, sort of bleeding into a keyboard, putting your heart and soul into this book, and you release it into a void, and you don't know if it's going to sell 10 copies or 10,000 copies, and you don't know how to influence those results. People come to me all the time with frustrations, and they're saying, Nick, my book is really good. I've got a few reviews. Those people who do read it, they absolutely love it, but I just can't figure out how to get more people to see my book in the first place. And this is one of the most common frustrations that I hear all the time. So what I wanted to build was a way for authors to build that audience and build that platform in an ethical way, in a way that doesn't make them feel like they're being sleazy or overly salesy, and build up that trust and that relationship with their readers so that they can sell more books and they can have this platform and they can get reviews and they can basically control their own careers. So that was kind of the gap that I saw.
That's fantastic.
I spent two and a half years figuring out what works, and the end product is this series of informational videos, this training that I've put together, this premium training as well, that helps authors get to that point where they don't have to rely on anyone else anymore. and they can control their careers because they've got this built-in platform, like their own sort of BookBub that's built in that they can use whenever they want. So, feedback's been absolutely fantastic. People are getting great results, and I just love to see people succeeding. It's brilliant.
It is great, and I've heard wonderful reports myself, and we will get to talking about all of that in a moment. But first, can you just take a step back and tell us a little bit about yourself and your own writing, your own books, and when did you start, and at what point in your own journey did this sort of kick in? Was there a light bulb moment? How did it all come together?
There was definitely a light bulb moment, and I think I'll come back a few years first, because I think I've done sort of every career you can think of. And starting off with going to university, I studied English literature, and I realized very quickly that that doesn't really equate to sort of a job prospect at the end of it. You have to do something else to really fit into what employers are looking for. So I got to looking around a bit. I ended up doing law. I did that for 4 years. I worked at a law firm, and then very quickly realized that wasn't the job for me either. And then sort of transitioned into marketing, because I actually found that coming up with interesting ways of getting more customers through the door at the law firm I was working at was actually much more exciting than doing the work once they got there. So that kind of was a natural transition for me. So I moved into a marketing career instead. And then Kindle came along, sort of 2010, I think, was the first time it hit my radar. And you hear from all these indie authors who were there at the beginning, who were making a very good living, writing books and selling them direct to their readers. And I saw these guys like Joe Conrath and Russell Blake and a lot of other people who were working really hard at the time to get that visibility. And they were getting to do what they loved on their terms, and they were making good money at it. And to me, it just seemed like the perfect opportunity, because I'd always loved writing, but I'd never really equated writing with something that could earn money. It was always something that people thought of as a hobby. You go to school, they don't put you through career counseling and tell you, you could be an author. They just don't do it, or they didn't do it when I was at school. So this was a fantastic opportunity for me to kind of hit all the points that I wanted to hit in my career, which was doing something creative, getting to be my own boss, call the shots, and putting a little bit of myself out into the world as well. So I published my first book in 2012, which is the Leopold Blake series, which are mystery thriller sort of action books. And I think, like most authors, it was very exciting, very nerve-wracking to put this book out into the world, because it's your first book. You have no idea if it's any good. So obviously I thought it was good, and friends and family at least told me they thought it was good anyway. And like most people, it had a few sales and then kind of dwindled off. But it didn't bother me, because I didn't expect to make thousands of dollars off the bat. So I just kept plugging away. And then once I got to my third or fourth book, I started noticing trends. I started noticing that every time you release a new book, you get a spike in sales. Every time you kind of did a promotion, you get a spike in sales that kind of lasted. And I started looking at the way we sell books online in a completely different light. So this was the light bulb moment for me, was this realization that we're not selling books in the traditional sense. We're not selling books. We're trying to get visibility on a search engine, in essence, because Amazon and the other ebook retailers are search engines for books, essentially. So if we approach our marketing efforts in the same way that we would approach trying to rank a web page on the top of Google, if we take that SEO, search engine optimization approach, I thought, would this work? It seems logical that it would work. And I spent some time optimizing my books and building up systems and processes so that readers could come and sign up for my mailing lists and follow me on my social media accounts. And I saw immediate success with that. Like literally quadrupled my sales overnight, because I started paying attention to how these online ecosystems actually function and how our books fit in to that ecosystem, and it made a massive difference.
So can you give me some real concrete examples of what you did specifically? I mean, we'll get on to more general advice in a while, but specifically, what did you do when you say, was it a matter of categories and keywords, or was there more to it than that?
Absolutely, it really is that simple. And the problem is most authors, when they're publishing their books, and we'll stick to KDP, to Amazon, just because it's it's easier. But when you're publishing your book, you get to choose your categories, and you get to choose what keywords you want your books to be listed under. And most authors kind of just come up with sort of 7 words that vaguely describe their book. So, if you've written a romance book, they'll type romance in there, or thriller if they've written a thriller. But what I found is that when you're trying to compete with all the other books that are using romance or thriller as a keyword, there's hundreds of thousands of them. If you go check on Amazon, if you type the word romance into the search bar, you'll see something like 120,000 hits. So you've got to compete with 120,000 other books to get noticed, and it just isn't going to work unless you're already a big name with a strong sales record behind you. So what I did, and what I always advise authors to do instead, is to really narrow that down as much as possible. So with keywords, instead of using romance, you might want to use something like historical romance series. So that's a lot more targeted. And if you type that into Amazon, you'll see significantly fewer results. So there's fewer other books to compete with, means you're much more likely to get noticed. And there's ways that you can implement this this metadata into other aspects of your book as well. So into the titles, into the product descriptions, choosing the right categories. The general idea is to be as focused as possible. So stay away from broad keywords and broad categorizations. Go as narrow as you possibly can, and you should start seeing results, because it really does make a massive difference if you're not already doing this.
Okay, so that's one very concrete and very, relatively simple tip. Everybody can go into their book descriptions, their metadata, and narrow down. So that's one thing. So what did you do? Your books were in what category? Where did they move to? Specifically, what categories are you in?
So I had them listed in sort of mysteries and thrillers, like the top category. And for keywords, I was using words like mysteries as one, thrillers, action maybe. And then I changed it up, and instead of just being in the mysteries category, I kind of went into the subgenres. So they've got like private investigators and various other different types of mystery in there. Go into those categories. Instead of using one word keyword phrases, I was using sort of 3 or 4 words instead. So like, private investigator series or private investigator mystery, becomes a much more targeted keyword. And you can look at the categories that are on Amazon to come up with ideas. And you can type these ideas into the search bar, and Amazon will give you a drop down of all the suggested search terms that it can come up with as well. And you can browse through these, and you can see how many other books are also listed there. You can see how well those books are selling, to see if you can compete, to see if there's any traffic going there. And with this process of trial and error, you can really make a massive difference. And there is software that you can buy as well that will do it for you much quicker. You just click a button and it lists out some good choices for you. So if you want to save yourself 6 hours of staring into a screen, that's a good opportunity to do that as well. But generally speaking, it's just pay attention to what people are looking for on Amazon and the other stores. Be as focused as possible. Come up with your reader avatar. The idea of who is my perfect reader? Who am I trying to target here? And think about how they would find your book on Amazon. And once you get into that mindset, it becomes a lot easier.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the reader. That's our sort of mantra here at the Alliance of Independent Authors. We're always saying, an indie absolutely has to get a clear sense of who the reader is. And for some writers, that's much easier than others, I think. Genre fiction writers find it easier. Non-fiction writers find it easier again. But how do we go about this process? Do you have a sort of, is it part of your training to help writers think about the reader and kind of drill down to finding out who that perfect reader is for them?
Absolutely. It's all about the reader. Every time think about what's good for the reader. And this is where the 3-step strategy comes into play. So as we've mentioned, we are selling books online. This is an online business, and we have to use kind of internet marketing strategies to build up our audience. And the way that any business does this, if they want to succeed, is looking at 3 things. So number 1 is traffic, getting people to the books in the first place. Number 2, and this is what people don't do, is getting the traffic off of Amazon and onto your platform. And then number 3, learning about your reader, building that relationship, and learning how to sell effectively without coming across as too salesy. So in point 2, and this is what people are missing, is they're getting all this traffic to their books. Let's say they've done a promotion, they're paid for an advert, or they've done some kind of Facebook promotion or whatever it is, but they're getting extra traffic to their books. But that's it. They're getting extra sales, which is great, but then those people are gone, those customers are gone, perhaps never to return. So instead, what you can do is think about how to get people away from Amazon and the other stores, get them onto your mailing list, onto your Facebook pages, so that you have that customer relationship and you can curate it. And you can develop trust and relationship and prove your brand directly with the reader. And if you do this, you get to have a very good sense of who your reader is. So if you've got all these people, let's say, on your mailing list, and you send out an email and you say, I'm offering something cool over on my Facebook page. Here's a link. Come check it out and like the page. All these people will like your Facebook page, and then you can use Facebook's analytics to find out who those people are. So you can find out their gender, their ages, their relationship status, where they live, what they're interested in, their likes, their dislikes. Any demographic that you can possibly think of is all there for you on Facebook. And if you're using mailing lists, and you absolutely should be using mailing lists, there is a degree of demographics in there as well. So you can find out where in the world your people, your readers are. You can get some basic ideas of what they're interested in by how they're engaging with your messaging. So the key thing is, and this is what people aren't doing, is taking that traffic from Amazon. So instead of letting Amazon do all the work, taking that traffic away from Amazon, putting it onto your platform, and then sending them back to Amazon to buy the books, when the time is right, when you've built that relationship, and when you've kind of got that trust built up. And that's absolutely key for any kind of long-term success, because, as many authors know, you can be selling tens of thousands of books one month, and then hundreds of books the next month, or 5 books a day one month, and then 100 books a day the next month, and you don't know why, you don't know how. But if you're building your own audience up and you're getting this relationship with people, you can see exactly why that's happening, and then you can repeat it. And
so
that's the key to
you're
building it
actually saying we should know how, and that it's really important to take those steps, and the people are just not doing that in your experience?
This is what I've seen. I mean, one of the ways that people try to get readers onto a mailing list is they'll put a link in their book, and it will say, sign up for new releases. And for me, this is a big opportunity to improve this, because what you're doing there is you're asking the reader to do you a favor. You're saying, come and find out when I've got more stuff to sell you. And most readers, unless they're your absolute #1 fan, are not going to take you up on that offer, because the value isn't there. They're not terribly interested in when you've got a new release. They're just not. 90% of your readers are not going to be raving fans. That's just the way of it. So you might collect those 10% of people who will love everything you do, but the other 90% of people who you could quite easily sell to if you had the opportunity are just passing you by, because you're not giving them enough value, not enough incentive to go through all the effort of signing up to your mailing list. So you have to offer them something of tangible value to get them onto your mailing list. So, I advise people, if they have a large backlist, to offer a book for free in return for an email address. Or if you've only got one book, maybe some bonus chapters, or a behind-the-scenes kind of excerpt that you can add on as a bonus. Or if you're doing non-fiction, you can do cheat sheets, case studies, you can do videos. You can do anything you like, as long as it's related to the book and it's what your readers want. And then you can get them onto your mailing list, and then later onto your Facebook pages as well, without doing anything, without doing any particular work, because you can set it all up to be automated. So it's a very quick win for people to put something like this into place and start seeing their audience growing on a daily basis without them having to do anything. And then when you've got a launch or a promotion, you've got 500, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 people on your mailing list ready and waiting to hear from you. You've already proved your value. You've proven your brand already, so they like your books, and they're ready to buy when it's time to launch. And that makes all the difference. And it costs nothing to get started.
You've mentioned Facebook now a good few times. I have to confess to being on Facebook since I started writing back in whenever, and really not using it properly. I know I don't. I post there every so often, and that's kind of about it. Do you see Facebook as a particularly valuable platform for writers?
I think for Facebook, for me, I use it as another way to communicate with my fans. I don't really sell on Facebook unless I'm doing paid advertising. But we'll talk about that in a second. But for people using sort of the organic reach of Facebook, like we have been for years, in recent months they've really clamped down on how much visibility you get just by posting on your page. You know, it used to be something like 50% of your audience would see a post, and then last year it kind of dropped down to maybe 20%, and now it's like 5%. You know, hardly anybody sees them anymore, and you're not getting the level of engagement that you used to. So if you've built a business on organic Facebook posts, you know, the last few months is probably going to have been a struggle for you. But it's still a great way for readers to contact you and for you to build your brand without having to spend any money. And then if you want to do paid advertising, it's incredibly powerful because Facebook has this huge, huge audience, and you can target your perfect reader very, very easily. So you can serve the right kind of advert to the right kind of person, to the right kind of reader, and you can get great results. With some trial and error, if you know what you're doing, it does work extremely well. But I think just, you know, the organic Facebook side of things, just posting on your page, you know, it's a great little way to just add a little bit of extra, a little bit of a personal touch. You know, I tend to post fairly personal things on my Facebook page. I listen to what my readers are saying, and then beyond that, you get to collect all the great demographics about them because Facebook's tracking this for you. And in your author page, you just got to click on the demographics button, and it will give you a great rundown of who your audience is. You know, what your kind of composite perfect reader looks like. So it's worth it just for that.
And in terms of, you know, analysing the reader, and back to the sort of the second part of the strategy that you were talking about, can you talk to us a little bit in a little bit more detail about that, about specifically how you approach that? So Facebook gives you the demographics for the people who are coming onto your page. Do you then, what do you actually do with that? So, you know your typical reader is such and such an age, such and such a gender, from such and such a country. So what next?
Well, we have to dig into why readers buy in the first place. So as with selling anything, especially online, where the opportunity is usually by email. So you've got to come up with a strategy that's going to allow you to sell effectively. So if I'm trying to sell something to a person and I have no idea who that person is, what motivates them, what their interests are, how to connect with them on a personal level, I'm going to struggle to build a sales message that's going to appeal to them. And if I fail to do that, the chances of them actually buying something from me drop down to almost zero. But if I understand who my reader is, where they live in the world, what kind of, any demographic you can think of, you can get into the head of, get into their heads, think about what drives them, what makes them want to buy a book, what other authors do they enjoy reading. And this is a question I ask as well when people sign up to my mailing list. The first thing I ask them is, have you read anything good lately? And they email back and they say, yes, I've read this by so-and-so, which gives me a great insight into what they enjoy. So it's when it comes to a promotion time or it comes to launch time, I've got a great idea of what actually drives these people to click a button and buy a book. And that means that you can overcome the objections to why they might not buy, and you can really improve your results. But you can't do that unless you understand who your audience is. So there's many different ways that you can find out, and one of the easiest ways is just to ask them. Ask them what they enjoy reading, ask them what they've been doing this weekend, and you can only really do that if you're getting them onto your mailing list or onto your Facebook page. Because if you're letting Amazon do all the work for you, they're not going to send you that information. I mean, they know it. Don't get me wrong, they absolutely know who their customers are, but they're not going to share that information with you. So you have to kind of put the work in to make that happen yourself.
Okay. So are you talking about a Facebook page, author page, or are you talking about Facebook profile? Do you use both, a combination of both, or which? I
mean, I use an author page. I mean, I think don't get too hung up on Facebook. The main thing you should focus on is your mailing list.
Yeah.
Because if you've got an email list, you can reach everybody on that mailing list. If you've got a Facebook page, you might only reach 5% of people. So it's kind of difficult. And what you really want to do is get people onto your mailing list first, because that's the main line of communication that you control, and no one can turn around and tell you you can't send emails anymore, unless you're spamming everybody. Whereas Facebook can change the rules anytime. But what you can do is then ask them to join you on Facebook as well. So you've got the best of both worlds.
Sure.
So don't get too hung up on whether it's a page or a profile or anything like that. As long as you've got some kind of presence on Facebook, some kind of professional presence, then that's another avenue that you can use to reach readers, and also get them to reach you as well. Have a two-way conversation instead of just sending out sales messages all the time. Have a conversation with your readers and find out more about them, and build that relationship.
We're totally going to get into the whole email end of things now, because I think that's where your training really scores. But before we leave social media, Twitter?
I tend not to use Twitter very much. I mean, I know some people have had results with Twitter, but it's very much a numbers game. If I've seen people, with hundreds of thousands of followers, but how do you then turn that into a way to make money or sell books? It's very difficult, because Twitter is sort of very, very quick and very sort of in your face, and if you post something on Twitter, chances are people aren't going to see it. So Twitter can work really well if you're making the effort to go out and build those connections and drive traffic to the right places. But I would always say absolutely focus on email, get their email address, and then if you prefer Twitter, get them to join you on Twitter. If you prefer Facebook, get them to join you on Facebook. Join on both, on Google Plus, wherever you like.
Wherever, okay.
As long as you get that email address first, you can control that.
So let's talk about that then. Email addresses, how to get them, and then how to actually, well, first of all, how to build up. You're talking about 10,000 readers, and so you mean 10,000 subscribers to your email list. I think for many indies that is a dream, not a reality. So can we talk about how to get 10,000 people together?
So there's a loads of ways you can do it, and the key thing, it comes down to, again, getting traffic and then converting that traffic into subscribers. And as we've kind of mentioned, if you want to convert that traffic into subscribers, you've got to do more than just ask them to sign up to your new releases list, because some people will, most people won't. But if you're offering something of value in return for that email address, like a free book or a short story or bonus chapters, cheat sheets, case studies, whatever it is, then you'll see considerably more people signing up. For me, it was 10 times more. So when I was asking people just to join my new releases list, I then offered them a free novella. I saw a 10 times increase in the number of people joining my list. And you can get traffic as well, more traffic through using permanently free books is a great way to get traffic, because you're getting 50 to 100 times more downloads than you would do if it was a paid book. I mean, you don't make money off the first book, but you get more people on your email list, and then you can sell books to them at full price later on and make up for it considerably better. You can use free promotions if you're in KDP Select. You can use those 5 days every month, every 90 days to drive more people to your mailing list. You can use giveaways. You can use guest posts. I mean, there's tons of ways that you can get traffic, but the key thing is figuring out how to convert it into subscribers. So coming up with that value offer that gets people interested enough to actually go and sign up to your mailing list, and then developing that relationship too. So don't just let them sit there wondering what's happened to you. Actually build a relationship with them too. And those two things together, I've seen people implement this and immediately start getting sort of 20 people a day signing up to their mailing list, not with doing anything else. They've already got traffic coming in, but they just weren't converting it well enough. So just by making that one tweak, they were going from sort of 2 subscribers a day to 20 subscribers a day, and that's 600 people a month, not counting promotions. So that's over 7,000 people a year already without doing any sort of promotional activity. So once you look at the numbers, and you can see it's actually very achievable to get 20 or 30 people onto your mailing list every day, you can get to 10,000 readers very quickly. And then you've got that platform, it's built up for life, and you can use it whenever you need to.
How important is the author website in this? I mean, overall website first, and we talk about blog in a minute. How important is it to have a really good website, do you think, in terms of building that relationship and people knowing what you're doing and what your writing is about?
It's incredibly important, and I think because this is the way that we get traffic from Amazon onto our mailing list, is we have to send them to our website to collect that email address. So our website has to be optimized to do that collecting. So if we've got a website that's filled with lots of different information about everything under the sun, and we're sending readers there, they'll get lost and they'll get confused. But if we're sending them to a page that has very little on it, and it's just it's what we'd call a landing page or a squeeze page, where we'd just repeat the offer, so the free book or the free case study, and then we'd offer them the opportunity to get hold of it by signing up to our mailing list. If that's the only thing on that page, that will convert incredibly well. Whereas if our website is everything you can possibly think of, people tend to click away. So when you say, a good website, an effective website, doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to have fancy effects on it. It just has to be really focused. So when you go to a website, you need to know immediately what is the purpose of this website. A casual browser needs to know immediately, am I in the right place? So if you've got a good idea of what you're trying to achieve with your website, and I would suggest the number one thing you should be trying to achieve is getting an email address from a potential reader or a potential customer, then it becomes very easy to look at it through those eyes. So your homepage, does it have a big call to action on there? Is it asking people to do something in return for value, or is it just listing lots of different things that you do? In which case, it might be a bit confusing for people. And it's just looking at it like that, being as focused as possible, getting rid of any sort of superfluous information that isn't going to help you reach your goal of getting that subscriber. Decluttering essentially is an amazing way to make a big difference. And when I started doing this, my website, I'd send people to a landing page where they could sign up for their free book, and it had navigation links across the top, across the bottom. It had the sidebar. People could go look at other parts of the site, and I found that of all the people landing on that page, only around 20% of them were signing up, because most of them were clicking away. They were going to go look at my about page or my books page, or they were just clicking on some random link and they were leaving and never signing up. So I got rid of all of that, and literally all it was a picture of the book they were going to get and a button that let them sign up to enter their email address. And my conversion rate went from sort of 20% to over 70% just by doing that. So by decluttering and focusing on exactly what the purpose of your website is, in this case collecting email addresses, it made it much more effective. And that's a big tip of the day.
So to be clear, you did this to this particular landing page, so this became the link that you brought people to, but you didn't get rid of everything off your website and just turn it into a landing page, I presume.
Well, the content didn't disappear,
no.
But you couldn't access it from that landing page. So if people were seeing my offer in the front and the back of my book, so instead of saying sign up to my new releases here, I was saying get a free copy of the next book in the series when you join my readers group, and then there'd be a link, and the link would take them to that special landing page that had nothing else on it. But if people were casually sort of stumbling across my website and they were going to the home page, they'd still be able to access all of that other information. But the key thing was making sure that book offer was front and center on the home page as well, and every other page. So every page of my website became like a landing page. It would have that offer front and center, really obvious. And then there was a special landing page that I would send people straight to if I got the chance that had nothing else on it at all. So it was making it as focused as possible.
And you mentioned front and back of book. So you're actually saying put your link to that landing page at the beginning of your book?
Yep, every possible opportunity, I think. And if you're doing non-fiction, it's also worth doing within the book too. So if you're referencing a particular point that you're trying to make in your book, and someone can go look up more information about it, you can then link to a landing page within the book as well. Can't really do that with fiction,
No,
if you get to a really exciting sort of, turning point where the killer is about to be revealed and you say, oh, while I've got you for a second, go check out this page, it doesn't work. But with non-fiction, yeah, you can do that as well. But at the very minimum, put it in the front of the book so people see it when they first open the book. They might not sign up then and there, but they've at least seen it, they're aware of it. And then again at the back. Because the chances of them missing... Yeah, the chances of them missing it at either end, it could happen. So put it at the front and the back. It does make a difference, definitely.
I never thought of the front, but it strikes me it's then part of the sample. So even if somebody hasn't bought, they may still perhaps go through.
Exactly. So just as many opportunities for them to see that offer as possible, you're much more likely to get them to take you up on it.
Okay. And then in terms of the demographic that you were talking about earlier, do you think people should actually shape up their website and shape up their offering and their explanation of themselves and all of that around the people who are already reading their books or the ideal reader or whatever, and how might they go about that?
I think every page on your website it should be very clear what's in it for the reader. So if you've got an about page, a lot of people will just list their life story, but this is a good opportunity to sell yourself to your reader. So instead of just listing out all the stuff you've done, you can talk about how you bring value to a reader. And the idea is you know what your reader likes already, so you can really shape that towards what they're looking for. And that's another opportunity for you to, prove what value you bring to the table, and then you can lead them through to your, your free book offer or your free case study, whatever it is, and get them to sign up to your mailing list. So, every opportunity, prove your brand and tell people what it is you're bringing to the relationship, and it makes it much easier for them to say yes. I want to find out more about this person because they're obviously writing books that I really want to read. They're offering me something for free so I can make sure I like it, and then they'll buy full price books off you later on down the line.
Okay, let's talk about time, because
It's very deep.
Okay, not like that. We can do that some other time. Let's talk about seriously. I mean, you talk to indie authors, and the two things they want more of is more book sales and more time. And all of this, I know that as people are listening to us here, they are thinking, how do I find time to do these things? Typically, what sort of time do you believe an author should be spending promoting vis-a-vis writing?
There's no magic answer. I think, if you're putting in a system that allows you to get people onto your mailing list, you don't have to spend much time marketing at all, because all of this is working on autopilot. So you're building an audience of people that enjoy your books behind the scenes. So you can carry on writing all day, and this, once this system's set up, it can just go on in the background. And then when you're ready to promote your new release, or you're doing a 99-cent promotion maybe, that's when you start looking at doing the marketing. So you might send out some teaser emails just to let people know that it's coming up, and then you do your launch sequence. And there are launch strategies that I teach people that get really good results. But, you don't have to spend all day writing emails. You don't have to spend all day on forums or Facebook. If that's not what you enjoy doing, if you would rather be writing, absolutely do that, because you can put this on, you can put this on autopilot, and it will be there ready and waiting for you when you're ready for it.
It does take time to set up, though, and I think it does also take time to work out who you are and what you're doing, and particularly if, as many of us do, you write more than one kind of book. Do you have any tips or strategies there, or do you just think, oh God, nightmare, don't do it?
I think in terms of taking time to set this up, anything is either learnable or outsourceable. So you can learn how to do it, and or you can pay someone to do it for you. And I've put together 90 minutes of free video training that will show you exactly how you can put this together if you want to do it yourself. So yes, it does take time, depending on how comfortable you are with doing with WordPress and other bits of technology. It might take you longer or shorter depending on how comfortable you are, but it is possible. Anything's learnable. And in terms of having different series and different genres, my students in the course are from every different genre under the sun. We've got fiction, non-fiction, children's authors, we've got paranormal, romance, we've got science fiction, fantasy, thrillers, all kinds of things. And a lot of people are writing under multiple pen names, but you use the same strategy for each pen name or for each series. So you're building up a targeted list of people for each different distinct series or genre that you're doing, and then you can target your launch promotions or your discounted promotions to specifically the people are going to be interested in them, and then you can cross-sell your other books as well, because some people will enjoy one pen name, but they'll also enjoy a different pen name as well. So you give them the opportunity to buy both books, and by doing this, you can actually do that. You can control that sales message and that marketing message. If you're not building up a platform, how do you get people to move from one series to another? You have no idea. But if you can control that communication, you can cross-sell your different books and build up a targeted list of multiple different readers or multiple different lists of readers who are interested in the things that you do. So it's an absolutely perfect way of doing it. And once you've set it up once, you just duplicate it. So it's very quick.
Okay, so it's like everything else in the indie game. It's the learning curve to kind of get up there, and then when you're there, it's always easier second time around, third time
Absolutely.
around. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So before I leave you, is this course eating up your life? Have you changed from being a writer to being a teacher?
It's a great transition, I think, and I'm enjoying doing both. It's fantastic because it means a lot to me when I see other authors succeeding, because there's so many frustrations with marketing. A lot of it seems very overwhelming, and people let the technology stand in their way, and they procrastinate because it seems so overwhelming. And it did to me as well when I first started. It took me 2 years, spent thousands of dollars on stuff that didn't work until I figured out what did work, and then essentially documented it. And this course is now me showing other people how they can do exactly the same thing, and people are getting results. It's 2 weeks since we opened the course, and people are already seeing some great results. So it's fantastic to see, and this gives me the opportunity to go back to writing soon as well now, because people are getting their heads around all the content, putting it into place, and getting some success with it. So the requirement for me to be there showing them how to do it every step of the way in person is getting less and less as people figure it out and get moving with it, and it's a great thing to see.
Fantastic. It's so satisfactory, isn't it? And it's the thing I absolutely love about the indie author movement is writers working together for each other.
Definitely.
There's nothing better. So is it too late to sign up for your premium training? Is that still open?
So what I would recommend what I would recommend people do is they go check out the free training. So I've got 90 minutes worth of free video training and a detailed case study that will get you started. So it talks about everything that we've covered today, about how to get traffic, how to convert traffic into subscribers, and then how to manage that relationship. So it will give you a great idea of what the premium training is all about, and it will get you some quick wins and some action steps that you can take as well. So the website is yourfirst10kreaders.com. You can sign up and get the videos straight away. And as and when the course opens up again, I'll be sure to let people know about it as well.
So you're getting them onto your mailing list.
Well, exactly. But it's all about offering more value than you're taking back. So I'm all about over-delivering, and people have been loving the videos, so it's been absolutely fantastic.
And I know that, and I was only being slightly facetious. No, it's a fantastic course, and we're delighted to see you doing so well with it and offering such great value to readers. So thank you so much for your time this evening, and look forward to hearing more about this strategy and actually putting some of these strategies into place myself, and I shall report back to you.
It's my pleasure. And as my voice is beginning to die, it's probably a good timing. So thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Take care, Nick. Talk to you
later.
Bye.
Bye.